Good morning, beautiful people. Mic check, mic check. Starting off with some quick housekeeping. There are some folks on this platform who are confused. So, think of YouTube like steak. Just because the app is available doesn't mean its use is legal, depending on the state, okay? So we've got both a copyright reminder and name, image, likeness reminder for folks, okay? Stop stealing my content. I sent a cease and desist a couple days ago to, what's his name? Charles Brown. Yeah. So I'm perfectly aware of the options that YouTube gives you to use people's content. And I assure you that YouTube's policies do not supersede state or federal law. Stop stealing my content. No attribution covers the copyright protection or the name, image, likeness protection. Okay? Shout out to everybody who's watching. Hit the like button. Shout out to the best mod squad on the internet. Hit the like button, share the live if you have not already. Well, shout out to D-Lo Design for dropping a little note in the Discord this morning, letting me know that this case exists. And here we are to talk about it very quickly. I don't have any idea who this man is. Okay? I don't have any idea who this man is. I don't have the foggiest idea. I don't even really think it matters, you know? I'm not impressed initially. Haven't read the document. Excuse me. So I know what his name is. I repeat, I don't have any idea who this man is. I don't really think it matters per se. I'm just, being clear in my ripe old age. I never heard of him before. But he is attempting a class action against Drake in the Central District of California. So this is Eric Dwayne Collins, aka RBX, individually and on behalf of other members of the general public similarly situated to him. So this is an action in a state. This is not an action filed by a state. Okay? Two different things. I can tell by the comments that I get on the class actions that include Drake that folks are concerned about that and think that states have filed actions in those cases. So just another clarifier that no, these are actions filed in states, not actions filed by states. That's number one. Number two, Drake is not a party to this lawsuit. So Drake is not being sued. This lawsuit is against Spotify USA Incorporated, Spotify Technology SA, I don't know what that is, and Spotify AB. Those are the defendants in this here document, okay? The defendants / respondents. So the plaintiff is Eric Dwayne Collins, and you need to know that because I doubt very much that he is referred to as RBX in this document. So you need to know he's either referred to as plaintiff or Mr. Collins or something of that nature. Okay. Apparently, I got a bone to pick. So let's just go ahead and get right into it. Introduction. To make it in the music business, you need a unique mix of extraordinary talent, determination, skill, and luck. And once you get on top, it's even harder to stay there. Some say the music business is a hustle because it's a dog eat dog environment, and you need to think of ways to break new ground every day. The famous American journalist and author Hunter S. Thompson once said, "The music business is a cruel and shallow money trench. There's also a negative side." End quote. When it comes to recorded music, every month, more than 100,000 artists, songwriters, and producers are forced to compete for their share of a limited pool of royalty payments from Spotify. Success begets success, and a higher stream share means not only more money, but also placement on top 10 playlists, playlists that further increase stream share, and other promotional attention. In the face of this competition, some take the hustle too far. They resort to cheating. Every month, under Spotify's watchful eye, billions of fraudulent streams are generated from fake, illegitimate, or illegal methods. Example, bots. I know Drake used bots. I know he did. You didn't know? I knew. Thank you, beautiful. And thank you for the tip. Kai, thank you, beautiful. I'm going to remember it forever. Okay? Mr. Porch Primate and his I knew. You didn't know? I knew. What? It's accurate. It's exactly what he sounds like. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if he does or not. I haven't read this document, but I would imagine we're probably going to learn more than we ever have. At least I am probably going to learn more than I ever have about the machinery of Spotify in either this document or in the lawsuit itself, or in the litigation, I should say, itself, if it moves forward. Drake is not being sued. Thank you for your support. I appreciate it. As described herein, data analysis shows that billions of fraudulent streams have been generated with respect to songs of the most streamed artist of all time, Aubrey Drake Graham, professionally known as Drake. But while the streaming fraud with respect to Drake's songs may be one example, it does not stand alone. This mass scale fraudulent streaming causes massive financial harm to legitimate artists, songwriters, producers, and other rights holders whose proportional share is decreased as a result of fraudulent stream inflation on Spotify's platform. Well, he's already done a better job of describing generally. I'm thinking about Drake's allegation of unfair business practices against UMG, which was, vague and flimsy, and failed to state a claim. This is already better than that. Obviously, it's not a one-to-one comparison because that was UMG and that was, other business practices. But bots were in there, but nevertheless, this is already written better. Yes, I do believe it is the 34th day of October on Drake's calendar. Yeah, boy, oh boy, oh boy.
I study rap battles for a living.
Okay. Spotify publicly claims that it has policies and procedures in place to root out fraud, but its purported system is nothing more than window dressing, inadequate at best. The truth is, like the artists who compete on its site, Spotify is engaged in a hustle of its own to satisfy constant pressure from shareholders to grow the business and increase stock prices. Spotify needs an ever expanding population of users to engage on its platform. Accordingly, excuse me, Spotify is all too happy to turn a blind eye to the substantial number of fake users on its platform whose activities are controlled by artificial bots to fraudulently inflate streams. The more users, including fake users, Spotify has, the more advertisements it can sell, the more profits the company can report, all of which serves to increase the purported value delivered to shareholders. Plaintiff is a world-renowned performer who, for decades, world-renowned? I already forgot his name. Okay, I know his last name. RBX, that's it, right? Did I get it right? RBX? World-renowned? Okay, King, go off. Plaintiff is a world-renowned performer who, for decades, has used his voice to dazzle. Ooh, jazz hands. Audiences across the globe. He comes forward now to use his voice for a new purpose. Plaintiff brings this case to bring justice for his brother and sister creators and entertainers. In doing so, plaintiff gives a voice to more than 100,000 rights holders who, among other things, may be unable or too afraid to challenge Spotify, a powerful force in the music business, whose failure to act has caused significant problems and great financial harm. Reading this sentence, he comes forward now to use his voice for a new purpose. Plaintiff brings this case to bring justice for his brother and sister creators. Reminds me of a time that I got into a days-long debate with an editor about the use of brother over the use of brother in a major written publication, and they just would not go for brother. They just would not go for brother. But I would imagine that the actual vernacular here is brother and sister, not brother and sister. Hold on a second. I'm getting some alerts around my property. Okay. Sorry about that. The irony. He's on Remember Me, but Absa don't remember. She sure don't. It really is. This is interesting writing. This is very interesting writing for a legal document. It's kind of refreshing because we've been, well, I have been reading just like the same thing over and over and over. So it's kind of nice to have a different creative writer step to the plate and give us something. In doing so, plaintiff gives a voice to more than 100,000 rights holders who, among other things, may be unable or too afraid to challenge Spotify, a powerful voice in the music business whose failure to act has caused significant problems and great financial harm. I bet he was just stewing and pissed watching Drake say, or watching Drake's lawyers say, that Drake was taking his legal action against UMG on behalf of smaller artists. I bet he was just fuming. This action is brought on behalf of plaintiff and a similarly situated class of music recording artists, songwriters, performers, and other music rights holders, collectively in this document referred to as the rights holders, who derive revenue from the music streaming service known as Spotify. That footnote is just a definition of rights holders. These rights holders derive revenue from having music to which they possess mechanical and publishing royalty rights made available to Spotify's millions of subscribers. Spotify generates substantial sums of money by charging its subscribers a monthly fee, as well as by including paid for advertisements across its services. The subscription and advertising dollars combine monthly to create a revenue pool. Spotify distributes portions of this revenue pool to individual rights holders on a monthly basis, based on their proportional share of total music streams for that month, known as the stream share. The more music streams for an artist's songs, the more revenue allocated to the rights holders for those songs. Plaintiffs' claims concern streaming fraud, the unlawful, deceptive, and fraudulent practice of artificially inflating the number of instances in which music is streamed from Spotify through various means, including through the use of automated computer bots. The use of bots to artificially increase the number of music streams for certain artists increases the share of revenues allocated to those artists whose stream share is artificially inflated at the expense of plaintiff and other rights holders whose revenue shares are diminished by this unlawful streaming fraud. Spotify publicly represents that streaming fraud is prohibited from its service and that it takes measures to detect, prevent, and remedy such fraud. In actuality, however, Spotify deploys insufficient measures to address fraudulent streaming. This is interesting because I'm also thinking back to when Drake filed his pre-action petitions against Spotify and others, and Spotify, um I do believe it was Spotify. This is based on the to my recall, okay? But I do believe that it was Spotify who submitted some declarations to the court about its process for um, detecting bots, and it had submitted a declaration specific to Not Like Us, but nevertheless, my recall is, and I could be wrong, this could have been Apple Music, it could have been UMG, but to my recall, it was Spotify who gave a little bit of information about its technical process, not a lot, but a little, for detecting bots and adjusting revenue based on the detection of bots, and that it had done so for Not Like Us and not uncovered anything. Again, that's to my recall. I could be misattributing that, and I don't have time to go back and look for the document right this very second. But that's what I'm thinking about in my mind. It's called what it's called in this document, specific to laws over the Central District of California. So the law terms it various things similar to this, but not solely. They were never sued, so they weren't dropped from the lawsuit. Moreover, Spotify deliberately turns a blind eye to fraudulent streaming because Spotify benefits from the increased number of overall music streams generated by bot accounts and other fraudulent means. For Spotify, more users and music streams means more advertising dollars so long as the true origin of the streams remain hidden. As a result of Spotify's insufficient measures and or their turning a blind eye, streaming fraud is rampant, accounting for a substantial percentage of the total music streams on Spotify. This fraudulent and often bot supported streaming dramatically and improperly increases the revenue share for a select number of artists and publishers, while it diminishes the share of other rights holders whose music is streamed by legitimate users. In other words, by allowing this fraudulent streaming to take place through negligence and or willful blindness, Spotify breaches the duties it owes to rights holders and causes them substantial financial harm. Spotify's conduct is carried out in violation of California law and the common law. So this goes through jurisdiction and venue. The justification for why this is filed in the Central District of California. The matter in controversy, exclusive of interest and costs, exceeds the sum or value of $5 million and is a class action in which members of the class of plaintiffs are citizens of states different from defendants. Further, greater than 2/3 of the members of the class reside in states other than the states in which defendant are citizens. This court may exercise supplemental jurisdiction over the state law and common law claims because all of the claims are derived from a common nucleus of operative facts and are such that plaintiff ordinarily would expect to try them in one judicial proceeding, excuse me. Venue lies within the Central District of California because each of the defendants transacted business in this district and because a substantial part of the events or omissions giving rise to plaintiff's claims in this lawsuit occurred among other places in this district. RBX is an individual and recording artist residing in Long Beach and a citizen of the state of California. Spotify is a Delaware corporation with headquarters in New York. Its digital music, podcast, and video services, and it is the world's most popular audio streaming subscription service. Spotify Technology SA is a Luxembourg-based business with its headquarters in Stockholm, Sweden. Spotify AB, its parent company, organized under the laws of Sweden, is a wholly owned subsidiary of Spotify Technology SA, a publicly traded corporation organized under the laws of the Grand Duchy of Luxembourg. Plaintiff is informed and believes, and based thereon alleges that at all material times herein, each of the defendants was the agent, servant, or employee of the other defendants and acted within the purpose, scope, and course of said agency. Okay. Factual background. Music streaming services are a popular type of online media focused primarily on music, podcasts, and other digital media that allows subscribers, often paid subscribers, to listen to or stream music and podcasts on demand. These streaming services typically host digital media in centralized online libraries, and subscribers can and do freely stream the content without downloading it. Music streaming is a big business. It's estimated that music streaming generates $46 billion in revenue in 2024, with North America representing the largest market. Most streaming services offer premium ad-free content for a fee, in contrast to a free ad-supported version. Generally, every time a song or podcast is streamed through one of these streaming services, rights holders are compensated with royalties. The amount of royalty payments owed varies depending on a number of factors and is often less than 1 cent per stream. But for artists whose music is streamed by a large number of subscribers, the total revenue can be enormous. For streaming services that generate revenue depending on the number of songs downloaded or streamed, the potential revenue is limitless. The more songs streamed, the more revenue generated. Alternatively, some streaming services, such as Spotify, generate revenue pools from, among other things, the subscription fees paid by monthly subscribers, as well as advertising revenue. Rights holders are paid a percentage. Da, da, da. The total revenue to be divided up between rights holders is infinite and untethered to the number of individual songs streamed. Anytime a rights holder's share of the revenue pool increases due to increased music streams, the shares for other rights holders necessarily decrease. Indeed, as Drake once explained in a legal filing, oh my God. Oh my God, they're using Drake's UMG lawsuit in this class action. This was already addressed, American Mom. Jesus. Anytime a rights holder's share of the revenue pool increases due to increased music streams, the shares for other rights holders necessarily decreases. Indeed, as Drake once explained in a legal filing, quote, streaming and licensing is a zero-sum game, end quote. Thus, if some form of streaming fraud results in an artificial increase of certain rights holders' shares of the revenue pool, see below, it necessarily comes at the expense of other rights holders whose songs were legitimately streamed by real consumers and whose share of the revenue pool necessarily decreases. So, as I said a couple minutes ago, this man must have been seething when Drake was claiming to have filed his lawsuit on behalf of the little guy. The fact that he quoted Drake's lawsuit is the shade of the shadiest, shade-tastic shade. They don't have the power to do that. So it would be nice, but that's not reasonable. Welcome, beautiful. He said, oh, really? Umbrella shade, 5-story building shade. Jesus Christ. Ah. Okay, so this goes through describing Spotify. Some of it I'm going to skip. It has 696 million monthly active users with 268 million premium subscribers. In 2023 alone, Spotify paid more than $9 billion in royalties to music labels and producers. Streaming subscribers are essential to Spotify's bottom line, as they, along with advertisements, are the primary source of Spotify's revenue. Like other streaming services, Spotify relies on metrics such as total monthly active users, MAUs, monthly active users, to forecast company success and market to investors and advertisers. The higher the number of MAUs, the more Spotify can charge advertisers to deploy ads across its service. The same is true for the number of total music streams. The higher the number of individual streams, the more Spotify can charge advertisers. Illustrating the significance of MAUs to its business, in its securities filing statement to investors, Spotify touts that it is the world's most popular audio streaming subscription service. In its July 2020, excuse me, in its July 2025 Form 6K U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission filing, Spotify further states, with a presence in 184 countries and territories, our platform includes 696 million monthly active users, including 276 million premium subscribers as of June 30, 2025. Also, in its July 25 Form 6K SEC filing, under the heading Key Performance Indicators, oh, KPIs, baby, Spotify emphasizes the significance of MAUs, stating, we track MAUs as an indicator of the size of the audience engaged with our service. Indeed, Spotify expressly acknowledges the connection between MAUs and its financial success, stating that we invest heavily in research and development in order to drive user engagement and customer satisfaction on our platform, which we believe helps drive organic growth in MAUs, which in turn derives additional growth in and better retention of premium subscribers, as well as increased advertising opportunities to our users. I think that's just a word salad, a justification of BS, in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. Further illustrating the significance of MA, it doesn't matter that whether or not it's BS or not. It matters that the language exists in an SEC filing. Okay. Um, Further illustrating the significance of MAUs as well as user growth to the company's value, Spotify represents to investors that our 696 million MAUs have grown 11% year over year as of June 30, 2025. Moreover, Spotify recognizes the materiality of identifying real users and further states we strive to detect and minimize non-bona fide accounts that may typically be created in an attempt to artificially stream content. They may contribute from time to time to an overstatement in our reported MAUs. Rather than paying rights holders for each and every individual music stream, Spotify collects money from monthly subscribers and advertisers and pays rights holders a share of the resulting revenue pool based on the rights holder's share of music streams attributable to their music. And then this gets into streaming fraud. For several years, certain bad actors have engaged in streaming fraud whereby music streams are artificially and fraudulently increased for certain artists in order to increase the revenue share for the rights holders of those artists, thereby capturing ill-gotten music royalties that would otherwise be owed to other rights holders whose own revenue shares have been diminished by the fraud. Oftentimes, streaming fraud is carried out by deploying bots, which are automated software programs that run scripts to perform repetitive tasks on the internet at high speeds. In the context of streaming fraud, large numbers of bots are programmed to repeatedly and continuously stream certain songs, thereby fraudulently inflating the total number of streams for that music. These bots are often purchased, deployed, or coordinated by third parties for the purpose of manipulating streaming metrics. The use of such bots creates the false appearance of heightened popularity for specific artists or recordings and inflates the total number of reported streams on the platform. Oftentimes, those engaged in streaming oftentimes those engaged in streaming fraud employ bot vendors who are specialized tech and software companies that build and deploy bots on the internet. Bot vendors typically design bots to mimic human behavior and resemble real social media or streaming accounts in order to avoid detection. Bot vendors also use virtual private networks, VPNs, which are encrypted internet connections that protect privacy and data, in part by obscuring the physical location of the internet user. Through a series of technical devices, bot vendors use VPNs to obscure the true location of the bot accounts, making it appear as though the bots are streaming music from all over the world, when in reality, the bot accounts all originate from a small number of locations, in some cases, a singular location, and from areas that lack the population to support a high volume of streams. There is no limit to the number of bots that can be deployed, particularly on Spotify, whose platform does not require a credit card to establish an account. Bot vendors can utilize thousands, and in some cases, many more bots at any one time. The use of bots is supposedly prohibited on all major music platforms, including Spotify, as they can result in a distortion of those services, finite revenue pools, and in doing so, distort the revenue shares owed to artists and rights holders whose music is being streamed by legitimate users. I don't use Spotify because I think it's absolutely horrible for 1,000 reasons. So, like I said, I anticipated that I was going to learn new things, and it never even crossed my mind that a reason for having people use a credit card to set up an account is to prevent against botting. But that makes sense. Plaintiff is informed and believes that Spotify knew or should have known with reasonable diligence that fraudulent activities were occurring on its platform. Spotify expressly represents that the use of bots and all other forms of streaming fraud on its platform is prohibited. Spotify acknowledges that such conduct compromises the integrity of its platform, misrepresents listener engagement metrics, and results in the improper allocation of royalty payments. Spotify also represents that it deploys methods to detect, prevent, and remedy streaming fraud on its platform. In November 23, Spotify publicly and belatedly announced its intention to implement a series of new policies designed to protect and strengthen the integrity of its music royalty ecosystem for both emerging and professional artists. Today, on its website, Spotify claims we put significant engineering resources and research into detecting, mitigating, and removing artificial streaming activity on Spotify so that nothing stands in the way of our mission of giving artists the opportunity to live off their art, and so that artists, songwriters, and rights holders are paid as fairly as possible for their work. Further, as part of these efforts, we conduct daily cleaning to ensure artificial streams are removed from public numbers in the Spotify app. This is essential to ensure a level playing field where nobody is able to use artificial streaming to increase the perceived popularity of their music on Spotify. The negligently overdue November 2023 announcement was followed by the negligently insufficient and or overdue implementation of new policies beginning April 24. Pursuant to these policies, tracking must achieve a minimum threshold of at least 1,000 streams within the preceding 12 months to qualify for inclusion in the recorded music royalty pool calculation. Tracks must achieve a minimum threshold of at least 1,000 streams within the preceding 12 months to qualify for inclusion in the recorded music royalty pool calculation. Spotify has characterized this change as a necessary measure to ensure that royalties are distributed only for tracks that demonstrate a minimum level of genuine listener engagement. Well, I think that's complete horse caca. Spotify further stated that it believes this policy will eliminate one strategy used to attempt to game the system or hide artificial streaming, as uploaders will no longer be able to generate pennies from an extremely high volume of tracks. In addition to the stream threshold requirement, Spotify also requires that each track be streamed by a minimum number of unique listeners before becoming eligible for royalty consideration. This requirement is intended to prevent users from artificially inflating eligibility through repeated or automated streaming activity. Spotify does not publicly disclose the specific listener threshold, asserting that non-disclosure is necessary to deter manipulation of the system by bad actors. Spotify has further represented that belatedly, beginning in early 2025, it will impose financial penalties on labels and distributors in the form of per-track charges when flagrant artificial streaming activities is detected on their content. Through these representations and policy statements, Spotify has repeatedly conveyed that it maintains both the capability and commitment to detect and address fraudulent streaming activity. Spotify's communications are intended to assure that the company exercises reasonable diligence in monitoring its platform and enforcing its stated anti-fraud policies. However, despite these assurances, multiple instances of artificial streaming activity have continued to occur and persist on Spotify's platform. The ongoing existence of such activity shows that Spotify's detection mechanisms and enforcement policies are ineffective, inconsistently applied, and or insufficient to prevent or eliminate the manipulation of royalty distributions. Under a properly functioning system, when Spotify knows or should know that music streams for a particular song have been artificially and fraudulently inflated through the use of bots or otherwise, Spotify cannot credit those fraudulent streams to the revenue share owed to the rights holders for those songs. Music streams, this section is entitled Music Streams of Drake's Music and Artificially, Music streams of Drake's music is artificially boosted by bots. And this just seems like a good time to remind the lazy people on the internet. Drake is a well-known singer-songwriter whose music is available for streaming on Spotify. In fact, Drake is purportedly the most streamed artist of all time on the platform. In September 2025, Drake became the first artist to nominally achieve 100 billion total streams on Spotify. However, on information and belief, there is voluminous information of which Spotify knows or should know, showing that between January 2022 and September 2025, a substantial, non trivial percentage of Drake's 37 billion streams on Spotify during that time frame were inauthentic and appeared to be the work of a sprawling network of bot accounts. Plaintiff is informed and believes that an examination of Drake's music streams reveals abnormal VPN usage, seemingly designed to obscure the true geographic origins of the bot accounts that were streaming his songs. For example, Plaintiff is informed and believes that over a 4-day period in 2024, at least 250,000 streams of Drake's song, No Face, originated in Turkey but were falsely geomapped through the coordinated use of VPNs to the United Kingdom in an attempt to obscure their origins. Further, plaintiff is informed and believes that a large percentage of the accounts streaming Drake's music were geographically concentrated around areas whose populations could not support the volume of streams emanating therefrom. In some cases, massive amounts of music streams, more than 100 million streams, originated in areas with 0 residential addresses. He claimed on information and belief. But yes, the judge ruled that he actually only had belief. So one of the things that's running through my head, because this RBX is also saying informed and believes. So the language is instead of information, it's informed. Okay? So plaintiff is informed and believes. Real popular with the scientist crowd up there in Antarctica. That's exactly what I said just a little while ago. This is already better written and has a more detailed explanation. Again, it's not an exact one-to-one comparison, but there are components that are extremely similar, and yes, agreed. I mean, Happy Feet, Drake's version.
High five. I'm bulletproof.
See what I did there? There was a double entendre in there. Okay, anyway. Uh-oh, I lost my screen that shows me. So can y'all let me know, can you still see me? And can you still see the document? Okay, great. Because I cannot see me anymore in StreamYard, and I cannot see what I'm sharing. So I just want to make sure. Okay, great. So, in some cases, massive amounts of music streams, more than 100 million streams, originated in areas with 0 residential addresses. Moreover, plaintiff is informed and believes that geohash data shows that nearly 10% of Drake's streams come from users whose location data showed that they traveled a minimum of 15,000 kilometers in a month, moved unreasonable locations between songs, consecutive plays separated by mere seconds, but spanning thousands of kilometers, including more than 500 kilometers between songs, roughly the distance from New York City to Pittsburgh. So what they're clearly laying out is a pinged bot under VPN. That's pinging all over the place in a span of time that is unreasonable. You're in New York City streaming the song. 5 seconds later, you're in Pittsburgh streaming the song. 5 seconds later, you're in California streaming the song. 5 seconds later, you're in Milwaukee streaming the song. 5 seconds later, that is a classic pinging VPN that is just moving the user. Touche, Hanzo. Drake fans can teleport. That doesn't prove anything. Shout out to all the OB hoes watching. Hit the like button. Share this live. Geoskipping Poppy. That's right. I mean, this is true. They can. They can. Owls can fly. Yes, you go ahead and you do that. I guess not. I don't know. We'll see. I did not see a bunch of attachments, but I'll go back to the docket and look in a second. Okay, so also, plaintiff is informed and believes that between January 2022 and September 2025, the volume and timing of the music streams for Drake's music failed to follow typical established streaming patterns. Okay, so let me pause here and just say that this paragraph that we just went over about the geohash data and potential, geoskipping, that suggests information and not just belief. So when we get into the detail of specificity, everything that we've read here that starts from No Face and 250,000 streams originating in Turkey, all the way down to geoskipping, that suggests information, not just belief. It's the specificity of the claim So when we're asking the question, I wonder what kind of proof they have. They have something that justifies them putting this information in the lawsuit. Whether it's true, whether it's accurate, whether it's actually fraud, we don't know. But they have something that allows for this level of specificity in the complaint. So they didn't belief up these numbers. This is narrative based on information. As everybody knows who saw my reactions, I'm very upset about the owl being associated with Drake. Very, very, very upset about the owl being associated with Drake. I consider it another cultural appropriation. It's a very long story. We'll move on. But yes, he has sullied that bird. He has sullied that majestic, majestic bird. Yeah, this isn't somebody going in and saying, I think Drake uses bots. You didn't know Drake used bots? I knew. I knew he used bots. I'm suing. It's not that, okay? It's date, time, place. So when we talk about, if we go into our little Wayback Machines where, we learned about and talked about what is a well-pleaded complaint, this lends itself into being well-pleaded. It is the specificity of it. It's not just the song came out and then there was a shooting. Obviously, the song caused the shooting. That's belief. That's not information. You've given me something to think about. Drake is not a party to this lawsuit at all. Thank you for asking. As the title of the video says, Spotify has been sued. That's suspicious. Okay, so plaintiff is informed and believes that between January 2022 and September 2025, the volume and timing of the music streams for Drake's music failed to follow typical established streaming patterns. While most songs and/or albums see an initial spike, in streaming immediately upon release, those same songs and albums typically follow a predictable decay pattern over the following months. However, in many instances, the streams of Drake's music on Spotify saw significant and irregular uptick months, and in some cases, years after the release of his songs, with no reasonable explanations for those upticks other than streaming fraud. In other instances, Drake's decay rate was slower and less dramatic when compared to those of his contemporaries. Additionally, the number of streams of Drake's music attributable to individual accounts is staggering and irregular. For instance, plaintiff is informed and believes that while the average Spotify listener listens to 10 songs per day, this is an average, a massive amount of the accounts listening to Drake's music, known as Drake's users, listened exclusively to Drake's music for 23 hours a day. Somebody snitched. I would say 0. I would say probably a 0. And there's too much that we don't know about not his reason for filing the lawsuit, which is stated in the lawsuit, but the series of events that compelled him to do so. The person filing this lawsuit has access to information. Whether it is accurate information, we don't know. But they are asserting that it is. This person has more than belief. They likely have access to information that they have gotten from somebody close to the data that is being alleged here. I mean, this is honestly when I saw the note in the Discord that this lawsuit had been filed, and again, I hadn't read it, but I was like, my initial reaction was this bullshit, and it's about to change my morning schedule, and I don't have any faith in this filing whatsoever. And within 3 pages, my mind has changed, okay? And it only gets more interesting as we read. We're on page 14 of 28. It only gets more interesting. But my initial reaction was, who the fuck is this dude? And what the fuck is this bullshit? That was my initial reaction of it's going to be, I know Drake use bots. I know it's going to be a bunch of that couched in legalese, but it is definitely not that. This is a different level of specificity than we have ever seen before in relation to Drake and bots. It's getting into the specificity of the mechanisms and the data. Yeah, I really kind of came here begrudgingly. But I'm sad. I'm sad. Plaintiff is informed and believes that streaming data of Drake's music shows that less than 2% of his users' accounts. Okay. Plaintiff is informed and believes that streaming data of Drake's music shows that less than 2% of his users accounts for roughly 15% of his overall streams, and roughly 9% of his streams are attributable to less than 1% of his users. As a result, Drake's music accumulated far higher total streams compared to other highly streamed artists, even though those artists had far more users than Drake. I'm going to read it again. Streaming data of Drake's music shows that less than 2% of his users accounts for roughly 15% of his overall streams. And roughly 9% of his overall streams are attributable to less than 1% of his users. As a result, Drake's music accumulated far higher total streams compared to other highly streamed artists, even though those artists had far more users than Drake. This is really interesting because I have always wondered how Drake consistently beats out Taylor Swift in streaming. I've always wondered that, just on the basic of arithmetic. How is that possible? That it doesn't seem logical. It doesn't seem logical at all. Okay. As a result of the fraudulent streaming scheme described above with respect to Drake's music, the rights holders of Drake's music, Drake and his company, Frozen Moments LLC, saw their shares of the revenue pool substantially and artificially increased. This generated significant revenues for Drake and Frozen Moments LLC, all at the expense of other rights holders, whose shares and revenues were greatly diminished. The amount of streaming revenue that would otherwise have been distributed to legitimate rights holders, but for the fraudulent boosting of Drake's music, is estimated to be in the hundreds of millions of dollars. Spotify knew or should have known about the anomalies described above had Spotify employed reasonable detection measures. These artificial and inauthentic streams were readily identifiable to Spotify in light of their statistically improbable geohashing, sudden surges in stream counts, coordinated streaming patterns, and uniquely slow and shallow decay of streaming of songs. But to date, Spotify has never properly addressed the millions, if not billions, of fraudulent and artificial music streams attributed to Drake's music, and the ill gotten revenues from those streams have never been properly distributed among the legitimate rights holders to whom the revenue is properly owed. This lawsuit doesn't have anything to do with UMG. No, Spotify will deny this outright, or they will say that it was not reasonable that they could have known if it's true. But no, Spotify is not going to throw them under the bus. That means that they are admitting that they failed to detect it, which would have a disastrous effect on the very things the lawsuit says it's trying to protect, which is valuation and shareholder profits. So no, they're not going to be like, well, if Drake was botting, we didn't know. No, no. No, they're not gonna do that. They're gonna say, "It's not true," or "It's unreasonable that we could have detected this." You know what?
Mr. Scott, open the door.
Nothing beats a Jet2 holiday.
Keep your conspiracy theories the fuck out of here. I am not interested. It is Monday morning. It just turned 9:00. Anybody else who wants to get into the comment section with your basic ass conspiracy theories, the mods are gonna get you the airlock. So rack them up. I don't care. Okay, now this section is Spotify's failure to prevent streaming fraud. they're gonna claim initially that it's not true or that it's unreasonable that they could have known about this, if true. But there are a bunch of things that they're gonna try and do legally to try and get this to go away, or to get, legally advantageous rulings, change of venue, dropping certain defendants slash respondents from the lawsuit, et cetera, et cetera. Drake, you use bots, Drake? I didn't even know. Nigga, you are a Drake bot. But anyway. Well, if it was a Spotify whistleblower, in actuality, if I was a Spotify employee and I was in possession of this information and I could demonstrate that Spotify knew or should have known, I would not be handing it over to somebody else to sue the company. I would sue the company as a whistleblower under whatever whistleblower statute applies, because then I'm entitled to a massive percentage of the damages if the case is settled or won. So I wouldn't have done that. I would have been like, that's nice. I'm sorry that you got gypped as a rights holder. I'm exclusively in possession of this information and I'm suing these motherfuckers. So let me be clear. If a whistleblower sues, because people think that whistleblowers just coming forward do so because they get paid, and that's not how it works. You have to have actual damages, et cetera, et cetera. And then you have to go forward with a case that is proven in court. So there are plenty of people who come forward as whistleblowers that are never involved in litigation and do not get paid. So I want to make that very, very clear, because there are a lot of people who will hear the word whistleblower and go, they're just doing it so they can get paid. The majority of whistleblowers don't get paid shit. Unless you consider retaliation payment, they don't get paid anything. They're literally just coming forward with information and proof of a situation, allegation, whatever. But yes, there are some whistleblowers who file lawsuits, and if those lawsuits claims turn out to be proven or are settled, whistleblowers can receive a pretty significant payout. So if a company is found liable, $500 million for damages, a whistleblower, 1% of that, 1% of $500 million, who wouldn't take that? I would. I would. Or 5% or whatever the math is in the jurisdiction where the action is brought. They get blacklisted in their industry. They suffer a lot of harm for whistleblowing and no protection. So whistleblowers are some of whether they wind up getting paid for something or not, they're some of the white hats in our society, because they put it on their shoulders. They put it on their shoulders. I mean, doing the right thing is subjective. Suing could be considered doing the right thing. Passing off information to somebody else could be considered doing the right thing, but it's not going to fly here for anybody to take or push the position of whistleblowers are bad because in some cases they get paid money. That situation is not going to fly here. They don't just get, if whistleblowers got paid for making accusations or bringing forward, trade secrets or whatever, evidence of fraud or misdeeds, whatever, then everybody would fucking do it. So that's just not how it works. It's just what I want to clarify. Yeah, and then there's that. They wind up facing their own litigation because they've usually violated an employee contract or whatever by bringing information forward. So it's there's a great deal of sacrifice that a payout doesn't necessarily make up for. You might not get that money for over a decade, depending on what the situation is. And in the meantime, you're just racking up costs, stress, additional litigation, et cetera, et cetera. So we don't know. Again, there's a lot that we do not know reading this document, but based on the fact that they are putting in what appears to be so much information, they've gotten it from somewhere. We don't know where at the point in this document, page 15 of 28, but it's come from somewhere because this, again, the specificity. Drake's music streams are but one notable example of the rampant streaming fraud that Spotify has allowed to occur across myriad artists through negligence and/or willful blindness. At all times relevant to the allegations contained herein, Spotify was one of the easiest platforms to defraud using bots due to its negligent, lax, and/or non-existent bot-related security measures. For instance, Spotify offers a free ad-supported version of its streaming service which does not require the use of a valid credit card to sign up. This creates the ideal conditions for fraudulent bot accounts to create fake Spotify accounts, since bots do not possess valid credit card numbers and or not in the volume required for meaningful bot-supported streaming fraud. I hate that graphic, just so we're clear. And Spotify has an incentive for turning a blind eye to the blatant streaming fraud occurring on its service. Spotify derived revenue in part from advertising. The higher the volume of individual streams, the more Spotify could charge for ads. By properly detecting and or removing fraudulent streams from its service, Spotify would lose significant advertising revenue. This is interesting because this is a direct counter argument for what Spotify said in Drake's pre-action petitions about like, we wouldn't allow for botting because we don't want to pay out artists revenues that they haven't really earned. What this lawsuit is arguing is that the more users you have, legitimate or otherwise, the more you can charge for advertising. And advertising, in part, is what pays royalties. So, by properly detecting and or removing fraudulent streams from its service, Spotify would lose significant advertising revenue. Spotify's effort to implement countermeasures appear to have systematically failed over at least the past 4 years to prevent or detect reporting of and allocation of streamer revenue based upon billions of inauthentic streams. Ultimately, through negligence and or willful blindness, Spotify failed to maintain platform integrity and failed to prevent the use of artificial bot streaming to inflate the number of streams reported for various artists, including but not limited to Drake. Moreover, by representing to rights holders and others that Spotify employs active measures to detect, prevent, and remedy streaming fraud, and by not revealing the stark reality that streaming fraud continues to surge on its platform, Spotify conceals from rights holders both the enormity of this problem and its detrimental financial impact to legitimate rights holders. Tolling of the statute of limitations. This basically says that any statute of limitations is irrelevant and void or non-applicable because they allege Spotify knew about this and is actively concealing it and misleading the public, the government, investors, etc. Plaintiff and members of the class as defined below were kept ignorant of critical information required for the prosecution of their claims without any fault or lack of diligence on their part. Plaintiff and members of the class could not reasonably have discovered the true nature of the defendant's wrongful conduct any earlier. Spotify knowingly, affirmatively, and actively concealed the true character, quality, and nature of the streaming fraud occurring on its platform from plaintiff and members of the class by falsely claiming that the problem was being addressed and remedied. Based on the foregoing, defendants are estopped from relying on any statutes of limitations as a defense in this action. The causes of action alleged herein did or will only accrue upon discovery of the true nature of the wrongful conduct as a result of defendant's fraudulent concealment of material facts. Plaintiff and members of the class did not discover and could not have discovered, through the exercise of reasonable diligence, the true nature of the unlawful conduct alleged herein. Okay, RBX first gained popularity through his appearances on Dr. Dre's 1992 triple platinum album The Chronic and Snoop Doggy Dogg's. Did he go back to Snoop Doggy Dogg? Or are they saying Snoop Doggy Dogg because that's what he was at the time? Anyway, Snoop Doggy Dogg's 1993 debut album Doggy Style, which has sold more than 11 million copies worldwide. Plaintiff Collins has also released multiple solo albums, including his 1999 debut, The RBX Files, which achieved gold certification, as well as No Mercy, No Remorse in 99, The Shining in 04. His solo catalog further established him as a key contributor to the evolution of West Coast rap sound. Appeared with Eminem, Criss Cross, Warren G. His music is available on Spotify. He derives revenue from his share of the revenue pool as determined by the total number of streams of his music. His rightful share of the revenue pool has been unjustly diminished and unfairly redistributed to his financial detriment as a result of the artificial and inflated fraudulent streaming of the music that Spotify failed to detect, address, and/or cure. They want this declared a nationwide class. All residents of the United States of America who, during the period of January 1, 2018 through the present, possessed royalties rights for on-demand digital media content that was hosted by Spotify and whose royalties and subscription revenue shares were diminished as a consequence of the defendant's wrongful conduct. I just had to remind myself that this lawsuit is on behalf of rights holders and not consumers. And that's because I can imagine a world in which this lawsuit progresses, this is a for funsies in my head, okay? I can imagine a scenario in which this lawsuit progresses to a point that this law firm or another law firm files a class action on behalf of consumers. So, I think you might have to move that decimal point. 5714. Boy, you'd be lucky to get 5.714 cents out of this class action. But we'll see. Well, you can go back to Drake's original lawsuit and look at what he says about how consumers would be defrauded by botting and other untoward schemes. They have a direct correlation here in between unpaid users and paid users of Spotify. So they have a correlation in here, and they are alleging that the bots are unpaid, right? But the increase of unpaid users contributes to the overall success of Spotify, its increase in ad revenue, etc., which increases its ability to do more campaigns, which thereby attracts more paid users. So they've got a Venn diagram. We just haven't seen it yet. But again, this is not for consumers. This is for rights holders on Spotify in the United States of America. It's not a separate lawsuit. It's the only lawsuit. And I answer the questions here. That guy, Nick, thank you. It's not a separate lawsuit. It's the only lawsuit. This is why I answer the questions. It's not a separate lawsuit. It's the only lawsuit. I said for funsies in my head, I could see a world in which this lawsuit progresses to the point where either this law firm or another law firm says, we need to file a class action on behalf of consumers. So there is no other lawsuit. This is the only one. Okay. California subclass, all residents of the state of California. Oh, well, here we go. All residents of the state of California who during the period January 1, 2018 through the present possessed royalties rights for on-demand digital media content that was hosted by Spotify. So this is not general public. This is still rights holders, but specific to the state of California, and whose royalties and subscription revenue shares were diminished as a consequence of the defendant's wrongful conduct. Wait a minute. Oh yeah, subscription revenue shares. Okay, so yeah, this is rights holders. This is not the public. Plaintiff reserves the right to amend the class definition if discovery and further investigation reveals that the class should be expanded or otherwise modified. Plaintiff reserves the right to establish additional subclasses as appropriate. This action is brought and properly may be maintained as a class action under the provisions of the Federal Rules of Civil Procedure and satisfies the requirements thereof. As used herein, the term class members shall mean and refer to the members of the class. And here we go again, numerosity. The Drake rap words. Numerosity. While the exact number of members of the class is unknown to plaintiff at this time and can only be determined by appropriate discovery, membership in the class is ascertainable based upon the records maintained by defendants. At this time, plaintiff is informed and believes that the class includes thousands of members. Therefore, the class is sufficiently numerous that joinder of all members of the class in a single action is impracticable under the federal rules of civil procedure. Okay, ascertainability. The identities and contact information of members of the class are available from defendants' records, and others can be ascertained through appropriate notice. Notice can be provided to the members of the class through direct mailing, electronic communications, publication, or otherwise using techniques and a form of notice similar to those customarily used in consumer class action arising under California state law and federal law. Typically, plaintiff claims are, or typicality, excuse me, typicality. Plaintiff's claims are typical of the claims of the other members of the class, which he seeks to represent, because plaintiff and each member of the class has been subjected to the same negligent and fraudulent conduct and have been damaged in the same manner thereby. And then adequacy. Plaintiff will fairly and adequately represent and protect the interests of the class as required by the federal rules of civil procedure. Plaintiff is an adequate representative of the class because he has no interests which are adverse to the interests of the members of the class. Plaintiff is committed to the vigorous prosecution of this action, and to that end, plaintiff has retained counsel who are competent and experienced in handling and prosecuting class actions. And then superiority. A class action is superior to all other available methods of the fair and efficient adjudication of the claims asserted in this action under the federal rules of civil procedure because the expense and burden of individual litigation make it economically unfeasible for members of the class to seek to redress their claims other than through the procedure of a class action. If separate actions were brought by individual members of the class, the resulting duplicity of lawsuits would cause members to seek to redress their claims other than through the procedure of a class action. And absent a class action, defendants likely would retain the benefits of their wrongdoing and there would be a failure of justice. Common questions of law and fact exist as to the members of the class as required. Okay, blah, blah, blah. The common questions of fact include, and this is on the defendant in terms of certifying this as a class action, whether defendants engaged in unfair, misleading, or deceptive business practices or practices in violation of California Business and Professional Code Section K, whether defendants engaged in negligent conduct to the detriment of members of the class, K, whether plaintiff and members of the class sustained damages, and if so, the appropriate measure of damages, and whether plaintiff and members of the class are entitled to an award of reasonable attorney's fees, prejudgment interest, and costs of this suit. Okay, so the claims are negligence. So if people are like, why isn't he suing Drake? Da 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 da. There's no accusation in here that Drake is botting. There's an accusation of bots. And this case is about malfeasance on the part of Spotify, a failure on the part of Spotify to address it. So Drake is not a party to this lawsuit. It's 3 Spotify entities that are being sued, 1 in the United States and 2 that are not in the United States but are being sued. And the lawsuit is in the Central District of California. Spotify had a duty of care to the members of the class, which is again rights holders, whose music it hosts through its audio streaming service and to whom it distributes streaming revenue. That includes the duty to monitor streaming traffic, detect and or prevent the use of prohibited bots and or other illegitimate means that are deployed to distort the streaming data and artificially inflate streaming numbers. Defendants also undertook and assumed a duty to ensure that its platform was not being surreptitiously manipulated by third parties to the financial detriment of legitimate rights holders. Spotify has access to detailed streaming data that would and or should have alerted Spotify to the artificial and or bot-supported streaming of music had Spotify chosen to properly monitor that data and or properly investigate potential misuses of its streaming service. In other words, Spotify had the means to both detect and properly address the fraudulent streams. Instead, Spotify breached its duty by failing to detect, turning a blind eye to, and or failing to properly address the artificial inflating of streams because the increase in overall music streams allows Spotify to generate more revenue for itself. Okay, so it's just going through. This is on the negligence is on Spotify. The second claim is a violation of unfair competition law. This is California Business and Professional Code. Spotify repeatedly and dishonestly represented that it would detect, prevent, and remedy streaming fraud on its platform, but Spotify never made good on these representations. Instead, Spotify turned a blind eye to a substantial amount of streaming fraud taking place on its platform because the increase in total streams caused by bot accounts increase. Okay, so a lot of this is repetitive, but it's addressing this particular claim and going back through its accusations. So there are two counts in here. Plaintiff on behalf, and this is what RBX, this is what Mr. Collins wants. Plaintiff, on behalf of himself and all others similarly situated, requests the court to enter judgment against defendants as follows: certifying the class as requested herein, certifying plaintiff as the representative of the class, and appointing plaintiff's counsel as counsel for the class. Ordering that defendants are financially responsible for notifying all members of the class of the alleged conduct discussed herein, awarding plaintiff and the members of the class compensatory damages in the amount according to proof at trial, awarding restitution and disgorgement of defendants' revenue and or profits to plaintiff and members of the class, awarding declaratory and injunctive relief as permitted by law or equity, including directing defendants to identify with court supervision victims of its conduct and pay them restitution and disgorgement of all monies acquired by defendants by means of any act or practice declared by this court to be wrongful. Awarding interest on the monies wrongfully obtained from the date of collection through the date of entry of judgment, awarding plaintiffs and members of the class punitive damages, attorney's fees, expenses, recoverable costs reasonably incurred during this court action, and any other relief that the court deems proper. I'm going to have to look up this law firm. Okay. So there is that. And let me just go back to the docket and see. I didn't see any attachments, so. But let me check. Turn on my alerts. No, there are no attachments. This was filed yesterday. I'll check the live docket. Just in case, dear God. Okay, pacer maintenance incoming. The notifications are ridiculous, but that's fine. My understanding is that I don't see. I'm just looking at a document on the docket, which is notice to interested parties. I don't see the state attorney general on here, but maybe that's a separate notification. And let me look at this lawsuit. I mean, this law firm. Sorry. Oh yeah, this is all they do. Baron and Bud. They do class action in a number of different areas and categories. They do represent whistleblowers as well. I'm just skimming. Their practice areas are class action, dangerous drugs and devices, environmental, mesothelioma, whistleblower representation, wildfire recovery attorneys. They're based in Texas with offices in Los Angeles, Baton Rouge, New Orleans, San Diego, and Washington, D.C. So the language in the lawsuit about how, we can handle this lawsuit on behalf of a national class of plaintiffs. Yep. In their sleep, they can. This is what they do. So they obviously feel very confident in the information that they used to put this complaint together. And again, there is a great deal of data. We don't know where it came from, but it's specific. And I'm sure that whatever they came up with in terms of data, they did their due diligence to make sure that what they had was accurate and not made up information. Basically, this is not some dude on the internet, right, who's on social media saying, I got paid $5,000 to do blah 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 blah. They got into specificity of numbers and data that they got from somewhere, and I'm sure they stress test the hell out of that and whoever they got it from to make sure that it was legitimate, because it is the whole basis for this lawsuit. And if this lawsuit is affirmatively certified a class action and goes forward, Spotify may very well be fucked, because that's just one artist. That's just Drake. And the skewing of royalties that result from that, again, if true and proven, is a huge liability to Spotify. A huge liability to Spotify. So the first thing that, Spotify is going to do is they're going to have their public statements. I don't give a shit. Drake is going to have his public statements. I also do not care. It would actually be most interesting if Drake said nothing publicly. That would be interesting. But I don't care if he does. But Spotify is going to try every single legal trick in the book that they can to make this go away. We'll see. I've got my alerts turned on. Again, this is a federal case filed by RBX, who is a resident of California, in behalf of anybody else similarly situated in California and across the entire United States of America. And he quoted Drake's own lawsuit, which is just... This is ridiculous supposition that has no basis in reality. Bless your heart. Because it has no basis in reality. And that is so far down the line and not likely to happen. If there's anything to this, this is day one. This is the first second of a lawsuit. There's too much we don't know about what preceded this lawsuit. And there's too much that we don't know that hasn't happened yet. But I said it before, and I think you showed up late, and you're not going to get the airlock. But people who are trying to attach this lawsuit to UMG's revenge on Drake, and you're not doing that. You're not doing that. I recognize that. You people are fucking annoying, and I'm not interested in your conspiracy theories. There is no correlation at all. This stands on its own. And that's the argument that they're making, right? That's the argument that they are making, is that the information that proves that these claims are true is in the hands of Spotify. And in order to, as I said when we looked at the Missouri class action filed against Drake, Aiden, and Stake, there is discovery that happens to determine whether or not the complaint has validity, not whether or not it's true, right? But whether or not the complaint has legitimacy. And that is based on discovery that happens pretty early on, and evidentiary hearings that happen with the court pretty early on, to help the judge make the determination about if and how this case goes forward. Does it go forward at all? Does it go forward with this person as the plaintiff, as the leading plaintiff? Does it go forward with this law firm as the law firm? Does it go forward against these parties, right? And does it go forward as a class action for rights holders in the state of California and rights holders across the United States? So a lot of things that the judge has to address. And this filing is really fucking strong. It's really strong. Again, when again, shout out to the looters and for notifying me in the Discord that this had been filed. I was like, fuck, I got shit to do. This is bullshit. And it's going to be a bunch of, I know Drake hates bots, but no, there is data in there that is really, really provocative and makes you go, where'd they get that from? Where did they get that from to come up with that level of specificity? Will we learn at some point in time? Yes, we will. Yes, we will. We will learn at some point in time. So yeah, I've set up alerts. It's now been added to my list of dockets to check and do some research on. and we will continue to follow it. Yes, because of the allegations made specific to the botting of Drake's music, which again is not the same thing as Drake botting his music. We don't know who's doing it, and they don't insinuate, suggest, accuse, hint at, none of that. Sneaked it. They don't do any of that in this lawsuit to say who is doing it, because that's irrelevant to their complaint. What is relevant to their complaint is Spotify should have known. And the fact that they talk about the predictability metrics within Spotify's own data analysis of artist performance, yes, does make me think that somebody on the inside is in possession of information that has found its way into this lawsuit. But there is no accusation of it originates from this person. No, that's nowhere in there. So nowhere on this live stream are you getting any, biscuit head ass conspiracy theory about Drake is doing the botting or academics is doing the botting or anything like that, because it's irrelevant. May it be discovered at some point in time? We don't know. Is it really relevant here? No, it's not. The only thing that is relevant here is that they have data about botting. They have actual data about botting. And so if this goes forward, huge potential liability for Spotify. Also, huge cultural liability to Drake. Because, baby, if your numbers start to get, corrected downward, right? If this goes forward and if a judge rules there's enough here that this is a well-pleaded case and the facts are in dispute, therefore it must go forward to a trial, right? Spotify is going to want to know who did the botting. If it starts to look like they're going to be on the hook for a massive liability or even a massive settlement, because this would be a massive settlement. The statute only requires him to put $5 million in here because that's the baseline threshold for damages for this type of a class certification. But they made it clear the damages are in the hundreds of millions to potentially billions of dollars. So if this case goes forward and it starts to look like Spotify is going to be on the hook for either a major, decision against them by a jury or a settlement to avoid a jury, they're going to want to know who's doing the botting. So that could spin out a whole nother thing. I just find it really fucking fascinating that all these lawsuits have popped up that in one way or another have Drake's name on it, even though, again, he is not a party to this lawsuit. He is not being sued. Neither is his stupidly named company. They are not being sued. They are not being accused of anything. So here's another, right? We talked about consumers could sue. Spotify could be on the hook for a massive settlement to avoid trial. Shareholders could sue. Because if there has been a major fraud on this platform, the valuation of the company is going to drop. If it is something that reasonably should have been detected by Spotify, shareholders will sue. Shareholders will sue for fraud and for being misled. So this could spin out several different things. Everybody say hi to Princey. He's awoken from his morning nap and he needs everybody to know. He did not attempt to sue Spotify. That is not true in any way, shape, or form whatsoever. Yeah, you guys are supposed to say meow. Try again, say meow. You can't read English. You can only read meow. Is a loud boy. There we go. That's the love we're looking for right there. Hi. He's very chatty. Oh boy, here he comes. Here he comes. He needs some morning comfort. You coming? Hold on a sec. Come on. Are you coming? Come here. I'm busy. There we go. There we go. I have lipstick on. Hi, baby. I need to go finish talking to the people. Good second morning to you. Good second morning to you and your big fat butt. I have to go finish what I'm doing so that I can continue on with my day. Go. Not happy about that. Oh boy. It's crazy. It's crazy how, I mean, obviously the ring is cursed. I don't think it matters if he gives it back or not. I think the damage is done. And yeah, I mean, I'm really, 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 really fascinated. The specificity in here about Drake's numbers between 2023 and 2025. I just cannot imagine that this information did not come from somebody who worked within Spotify. I can't imagine. I really can't imagine that it didn't. I don't see any other way for them to have received this information. So, yeah, and if it is, we may never know. You know, we may never know. Whistleblowers are protected under the law, so we may, you know, we may never know the identity of that person if it is in fact a whistleblower. I just can't imagine. I might have to ask Mr. Foxwell what he thinks about that and how such a thing could be detected since he's worked in algorithmic design. We talked about that yesterday during the Conversations for the Culture. If you missed it, check out the replay. Shout out to the replay gang. But yeah, the specificity about Drake's numbers, it's just, I know I keep saying specificity and specific, but I mean, guys, these titties are really fucking specific. I mean, I just meant I was gonna send him a message and ask him. Just gonna send him a message and ask him, hey, check out page whatever and whatever. Where do you think this data would come from? See what he says. Yeah, it was great. It was great. Mr. Foxwell was, I mean, I had a good, strong feeling, or I wouldn't have asked him to come on. But I had a feeling that it was going to be a great stream. And I watched it back last night. There's chapters on it now. And yeah, I was just like, this is so great. Y'all who showed up, 1,400 looters showed up live during the live, which is really great for a Sunday, conversation for the cultures. Really great numbers. Replay Gang has been continuing to support it and hype it. So that's fantastic. But it was a dynamic, interesting, thought-provoking interview / conversation, which is exactly what I was going for. And I too am very much looking forward to the next one. Yeah, and he and I chatted for a few minutes after the live stream was over, and he said that y'all were incredible. He was watching your comments. He had y'all's comments on one of his screens and was watching y'all's comments, and looks forward to interacting more with the looters in the future. So yeah, I think it'll be a semi-regular thing, whatever that winds up looking like. But I just think it's a great addition. It's a great addition, a great perspective, and somebody who is a really good human being is my read. I really perceive him to be just a really good and decent human being who is very, very kind, but also he don't suffer fools either. He don't suffer fools on his platforms either. So yeah, but anyway, back to this shit. Taylor Hoods, the Hood Taylor's version, Gargamel. I mean, oh God, I was crying tears last night. Crying tears. Oh, so funny. So funny. And that just, illuminates my point. Don't assume I know what the fuck I'm talking about. Gargamel? The look on his face was so priceless. And I knew I was wrong. But I could not think of Gargamel to save my fucking life. I was like, because also it seems like Mr. Foxwell would say that a Smurfs related, tune would be one that he would feel compelled by, that the aliens need to hear when they come to Earth. So I was like, it's possible. I'm going to go with that. And the chat's reaction, oh God. Well, oh God. I got to, yeah, again, when I finally got to replay gang it last night to put the chapters in, I got to watch all of your comments and watch you all just fall out. That was so fucking funny. I was like, from the Smurfs? No, Princey. No. No, I said no. I said no, and he brought his little fat ass right back over here. Onalisa, thank you for the $5 contribution. Who'd have thunk? Who'd have thunk that I was being conservative when I said Drake had 99 problems, child? For sure. Lord. Bird boy. D-Lo Design, again, thank you. Kai, again, thank you. Raphael, thank you for your contribution. Thank you for joining the membership. Nana, thank you for the $2 contribution. I hate Spotify. I fucking hate Spotify. Hate them. I bothered people on this channel all last year. You want to do something for music? You want to do something for hip hop? Get rid of your fucking Spotify. They are trash. Gosh darn it. Thank you for the $5 contribution. No, not necessarily. I don't agree that he gives the blueprint for it because no, he doesn't. Nothing that he put in that lawsuit leads you to this. Boy, if you don't, where you at? Yeah, run. Go. Sorry. I know that's traumatizing for some of you because it's my mom voice. But he's playing with me at this point in time. I don't agree that there is a blueprint in Drake's lawsuit. I don't think anything in there gets you here because it was so poorly pleaded. This is Michelin star compared to what Drake put in his lawsuit, which was based solely on belief and the statements of clout chasers on the internet. You mean like a federal investigation? No. Thank you, old school Gemini. Appreciate you. Bridgerton White, shout out to you for becoming a member. Thank you. I would have screamed murder. I would have screamed murder. No, I don't think so. I don't think so at all. I mean, and I've said this before. I need people to get off of that conspiracy theory bullshit. These things stand on their own as civil actions, okay? And the amount of research and things that goes into actually suing somebody, right? If you're going to small claims court to sue somebody for hitting your car, you want to be reimbursed for the out-of-pocket costs that insurance didn't cover or whatever. You might be able to put that together in a day and go and file it down at the court on the same day. These are lawsuits that take months of research to develop the complaint to make sure that you have well-pleaded facts. And because this lawsuit appears to have, we know Drake started threatening to sue around Not Like Us in May. He developed his complaint from May 2024 to January 2025, and then he filed it. So when we look at like the Missouri class action, that took months. That took months of research, drafting the complaint, and then checking their work, stress testing their own work. This, same thing, especially since it appears, this is just my opinion, it appears that somebody has provided them with data. So you would treat that the same way a journalist treats it. Somebody bringing you information. You have to stress test them. Who are they? How did they get it? And is what they are giving you valid? Did the person, again, this is all supposition. I'm saying my opinion based on the specificity of what is in the lawsuit. Somebody gave them data. And if that is the case, they would have, there's a whole process they got to go through to figure out who is this person? How did they come into possession of the data? Doesn't matter if it was legally or illegally, period. But nevertheless, how did they come into possession of it? And you don't just assume that because they would have cause to come into possession or be exposed to this information, that the information that they're giving you is accurate. There are plenty of people who, because of their, name badge and the position they hold, make shit up and try and pass it off to journalists as real information, just on their integrity. So you have to stress test the actual data that has been given to you and hopefully get the person to display to you how it is that this information is impartial, not something that they just cooked up and came up with their own rationale for it, but is impartial data that they gained access to. Whether it's accurate or not, they didn't make it up, right? They didn't make it up. And so it's in good faith. The data is in good faith. The person who brought it forward is in good faith. If there is a person, if there is a person who brought it forward, therefore this lawsuit is in good faith and a well-pleaded complaint. Yeah, I just need the fucking conspiracy bullshit to stop here. If y'all want to run it elsewhere, and I'm not saying that you are, if folks want to run it elsewhere, well, I think that UMG, I don't give a shit what you think. And there's nothing here that's on a docket that suggests that that's a reasonable assumption to make. Correlation does not equal causation, period. So, yeah. Yeah. Correlation does not equal causation. It's just, some things can take a very, 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 very long time to develop. And then it just so happens that it comes to pass, that things wind up showing up on dockets, separate dockets, not connected to each other in any way at the same time. Yeah, I hate that shit. We gonna find out. We gonna find out. I'm telling you. Mark my words. We gonna find out that UMG contacted Spotify after they won the dismissal. Shut the fuck up. Or we're gonna find out. Rock Nation! Again, shut the fuck up. Pull yourselves together. Well, on this channel, they're known as the Jaybirds because fuck the Blue Jays. Fuck Toronto. Fuck all that bullshit. I can't remember the last time I, was so happy about the outcome of a single baseball game. I was happier for that than I was for the Mariners getting as far as they did, as we all know. I was quite irritated with the Mariners for having the fucking nerve to get as far as they did, disrupting everybody's schedule in Seattle because we love them. So, of course, we got to pay attention and support, but, you could have let us know y'all were going to make a run since you expressly declare that you're not gonna every fucking year. But anyway, I digress. The way they cut to Squabble Up at the end of the game, I said, okay. And the Dodgers are using various Kendrick songs. They got Dodger Blue in a couple of their social media posts, which is fire because Dodger Blue is just fucking fire. Bitch, I'm from the land and am. Thank you very much. But yeah, the way that they cut to Squabble Up I was just like, I couldn't be as excited as I wanted to be because obviously I was on We Are Deciphered stream. So I couldn't get much further than But as soon as that stream was over, y'all, I went into my bedroom and went to MLB on YouTube and ran it back. The videos were like just uploaded 5 minutes ago. I was like, I know that's right. I know that's right. I know that's right. I ran that shit back like I didn't know they won. Screamed, loud cup clapping, all of that. All of that. All of that. Did my little dance. Go man. Go man. Yeah, all of that. And watched that cut to Squabble Up several times. From Randy Newman to Kendrick, I was like, this is a really special moment. It's a really, 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 really special moment. So, yeah, I'm very happy. I'm very happy about the outcome because fuck him and all his insufferable bird bitches. Do I know that that's a petty thing? That is a super petty thing? Yeah, it's probably the most petty feeling I've had in the past 2 years was I need the Dodgers to whoop the shit out of the Jaybirds because fuck Drake. Yeah. Yeah, I know it's petty. Do I care? No. Do I feel hella satisfied that they won? Yes. Why? Because until you do right by me, everything you touch, everything you even think about, gonna crumble. I hold on to that. I really do. That's what I said. That's what I said. That's what he gets for betting on him. That's what he gets for betting on him. Because you know he did. He didn't have any other reason to watch the game. Drake doesn't give a shit about baseball. Drake gives a shit about bets on baseball. So, yeah. Yeah, seriously. Seriously. Somebody needs to do something about that. PETA, get on it. Get on it. We got owls dropping out the sky because of this motherfucker. They're endangered here and in Canada. Do something. Shit. And hey, I'm not gonna pretend like I did not think that the Dodgers were gonna lose. I really did. When it hit 3-0, I was like, the Dodgers are gonna lose. I said it out loud. It was recorded. People can see it. People can see it today. I was like, mother bitch, these motherfuckers are gonna lose. And we're gonna have to deal with these insufferable biscuit head OVO hoes and all of their bullshit posts and blah 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 blah. And Drake music is gonna be in social media posts. Nah. Nope. It's all just Dodger Blue and Squabble Up and They Not Like Us and a little bit of Meet the Grams too, because that's what the fuck you get, boy. Go back inside. Fetch Gatorade or something. Shit. If you ain't the ball boy at the game, why you there? Hmm? Hmm? Rhetorical question. I don't need to be reminded of what I said. I know what I said. I know what I said. All these motherfuckers is gonna lose. God damn it. And then they won. And that was beautiful. That tying run, 4-4. I was like, stay composed. You're live. It's not your channel. Stay composed. You're live. It's not your channel. Focus on the discussion. And they deserve it because they shouldn't fucking exist as a team to begin with. That is my personal opinion. Canada should not have a baseball or a basketball team. I said what I said. I don't care. That's hilarious. I love this. That's funny. When you said they were going to lose is when Drake made his bet. I'm telling you, he watching. He is. He is. Well, right now, old school Gemini is my biggest supporter. D2B2, Robin S, Tia, a couple other people, T-Mac. Those are my biggest supporter. He might be my biggest hater, but he still watches. So do his little owlets. Ain't that cute? And a reminder to them. Leave my shit alone. Thanks. Everybody say hi. Say hi to the fan band 6ix9ine God. Taking another L just by association. Just by association. You ain't how did they pantsed this dude first thing in the morning. Said, look what he really working with. Just point laugh. That's crazy. Lawsuit said the abs are not the only thing that are fake. The abs are not the only thing that are fake. Ha! I love this so much. I love this so much. Little owlet nuggies. Poor things. Walking around in their Uggs, all distressed. Yeah. Yeah. Why you gonna try and fuck yourself with Japan altogether? Why you try that, boy? Why you try that? I'm the one who said when the Anita Max Win tour came up, I said he should not be doing this in Australia. He should be doing this in somewhere like Japan. Well, since he decided to piss off everybody in Japan by just disrespecting their fellow countrymen, I guess Japan for a tour is at a yeah, no. Yeah, no. Boy, Canada don't give a fuck about you. Japan actually cares about its national treasures. Canada don't give a fuck about you. Japan cares about its national treasures. Okay? That's the word right there. That's the word right there. Japan said, hold my sake, you bitch boy.
High five. I'm bulletproof.
Rocket BSD, thank you for the support, beautiful. I appreciate it. Says, I'm actually curious what propaganda will be used right now after this announcement. If true, this seems like it's going to be a mess. Yeah. I mean, the propaganda is just going to be public statements. Everybody's going to have a public statement. First of all, you're going to have people saying, I knew Drake used bots. I knew. You didn't know. I knew. And they're going to go through all of their conspiracy theories. It wouldn't surprise me if we see the same thing happen that we saw memorialized in Drake's lawsuit against UMG. I wouldn't be surprised if people pop onto the internet and say, oh yeah, I botted Drake streams or blah, 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 or I botted this artist. We're going to see just a lot of people just shit dump on the internet. We're going to see people sell snake oil bullshit and, predict the outcome. And they can't. Okay? They can't do that. You're going to have a lot of people who suggest that they have insider knowledge about this situation, or they've talked to people. They can't really say who, but, information came across. They're full of shit and just trying to position themselves. The companies are going to say things and so on and so forth. So initially, it's just going to be a lot of noise and mess. And for future reference, I don't care about any of it. Okay, so don't bother me with it. And that's not directed at you. That's directed at everybody. If it's not on the docket, I don't give a shit. Okay? If it's not on the docket, I don't give a shit. Yeah. Yeah, they'll say that they know what the lawsuit is about, and they don't. They don't read. They're watching me right now getting ready to steal my content for their own shit. So, proven track record on that. So, we will just have to see. They have asked for the issuance of summons so they can start serving everybody. Summons have not been issued yet, but they've requested summons. The court will review everything, and as long as everything is in order, they will issue summons. Plaintiffs will, sue. We'll start to get a feeling of what the schedule is going to be for when responses are due, et cetera, et cetera. And then we'll just have to go from there. No, baby, there was enough evidence on the public record to know, just like Jay Fold, these niggas don't read shit. Yeah, public statements are just PR. They don't mean anything. And one of the reasons why I don't pay attention to public statements, aside from, UMG telling Drake to get back on the host row. But one of the reasons why I don't pay attention to public statements is because they often contradict what they actually swear to in a court document filed with a court on a docket. So I don't care about PR statements. And PR statements are not a response to a lawsuit. A response to a lawsuit is a court filing. That's a response to a lawsuit. So a public statement is not a response. It's a PR effort. So, yeah. That's very sweet. That's very sweet. And yeah, quality always puts respect on my name, which I appreciate very much. And have very much enjoyed the folks in his or in their community that have come over here and showed love and all of that. Yeah, it's really not that hard. And for those of you who think, oh, I'm just going to ignore cease and desist and shit, and this bitch ain't really about nothing. Or matter of fact, now that she has sent me a cease and desist, I'm going to make it a point to always use her shit. I'm going to fuck you up. Just know that. So, but anyway, back to the topic at hand. Yes, this is going to be very interesting over the next weeks to months to see what happens and what the actual official on docket responses are to these various lawsuits that either directly or indirectly involve Drake. But until then, this is what we got. This is what we got. It's fascinating. It is really fascinating, and I have so many questions. But I'm not going to pretend like I know the answers, and I'm not going to listen to other people who pretend like they do too, because they don't. We just have to wait. That's just how it goes. So, that's it. I got to get back to my Monday morning. I don't know if I will have a live later or not today. I was not planning on having a live today. I actually thought to myself this morning when I woke up and realized that Princey was standing over me. By the way, this is the third morning in a row that I've woken up to Princey just like, okay, so you're not dead. Get up. But I remember thinking to myself this morning, nobody better sue this motherfucker. And that was literally as I was getting out of the bed. Nobody better sue this motherfucker today. And he did not get sued today, but oh my God, he got brought up in a litigation in a way that is material to the litigation. So if anybody out there is saying the only reason they brought up Drake is to get media attention on the lawsuit, that is not true. That is not true. They bring up Drake in relation to Drake's streamed music, and the data that they have is absolutely material to the claims in the lawsuit. So this is not a case of bringing up Drake to get more publicity on a lawsuit. This is bringing up Drake because the data that they apparently have around Drake's music during a certain time period is material and fundamental to the lawsuit that they want to have certified as a class action. Okay, I think I've covered all the bases. And yeah, I may see you later on today. I may not, but have a beautiful day. Have a wonderful Monday. Ignore all the biscuit heads. If you haven't liked this live, like it and hype it on your way out and leave a comment in the general comment section so that more people can see it. This live was pretty early this morning. I could have gone earlier. But I waited till I thought it was a decent Pacific or West Coast hour. And but yeah, I got to get back to my day and you got to get back to yours. So I will see you soon. Have a good day. Thank you for being here. Thank you for the support. I love you all. I'll see you soon. Goodbye.